Okay, and we're live. Welcome to the Premier League preview show with myself, Charlie Patrick, and co-host George Harris. And the Premier League is back after the Carabao Cup in midweek, and it's certainly going to be another action-packed weekend, George. And it's really only one place to start, I suppose, with the preview, and that is the game being dubbed as El Sackico, Tottenham versus Manchester United, Nuno against Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This is a massive game for both sides. Both teams doing pretty poor this season. You'd have to argue it's bigger for Solskjaer. He's realistically a loss here. And I mean, I'd have to say he's done. I mean, we keep saying he's done. And we're in a unique situation where kind of all the rival fans, you know, your City fans, your Liverpool fans, your Chelsea fans, etc., all want Man United to win so that Ole stays in the job. It's quite a unique situation. Do you share the sentiment that this is far more important for Man United than it is for Spurs?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was looking at the halfway through the game, I think it was at half time, I looked at the odds for the manager to be sacked. And before the match, Ollie was 3-1. And by half time, he was 1-3. So you can see how favourable the bookies and the outside man thinks Ollie's time is up. There have been sources from what I've read that he's been given 3 matches to save his job. That's been circulating around. So Alex seems to be trying to back him still, as do the board. I generally just think that's because they don't have any other alternative at the moment, but they're definitely looking around. I mean, that no smoke without fire, but that Antonio Conte story must have come from somewhere. And sorry, mate, before we get, I just thought because we do this as press conferences, I thought I'd have my sponsor, but I'll get that out of the way now.
Oh, mate, those shares are going to plummet if anyone's watching that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a huge game for Manchester United, and well, we were speaking earlier. I think United are going to struggle again on this one, and I know Spurs are equally poor at the moment, but they're so poor at the back that you always just feel like in any game at the moment they're going to concede a goal, and therefore they're going to have to score at least 2 to get a result. And I don't know. I just can't see, unless he completely goes back the other way and changes the personnel and everything else. I don't see what they can do.
Before we get on to Spurs, from a United perspective, surely there's going to be a response from the absolute shambles that was Liverpool at the weekend. I mean, it can't get any worse than that. I mean, I was very surprised when he went with exactly the same team that played Atalanta against Liverpool. Against Atalanta, they were poor and they got away with it. Against Liverpool, they were poor and they didn't get away with it. There's no way he can go at the same side. Obviously, Paul Pogba suspended. He perhaps would have been one that would have come in. You look at his field area, McFred is there as their dubbed. They're shocking. He cannot play them again. But you look at it, as I mentioned, no Pogba, and then suddenly thinking, well, who does he play in the middle then? Is he going to give Van der Beek a chance? I mean, he hasn't given Van der Beek a chance all season. He hasn't given Van der Beek a chance since he arrived. So, but something's got to change. I mean, are you expecting some drastic changes in the personnel, a change in system? He's got to do something different.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if I was manager and let's say this 3-game scenario is true, you've got to just roll the dice and throw everything you've got at it, rather than just going with what you know. I think you can even question some of the back line, can't you? I know Varane's injured, but for me, Maguire, that is a droppable performance from him. But he's not going to drop Maguire. He's not going to drop his captain. But you're right, mate. Maybe just say, right, Van der Beek, maybe try Sancho from the start, Rashford, maybe drop Ronaldo. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
What do you think about maybe bringing in Cavani? Are you surprised? Definitely. Are you surprised that given the fact that they paid all this money for Jadon Sancho, chasing him for the best part of 2 years? Are you surprised at how little he's featured? I would have thought he'd be playing every game almost.
I would have thought he would have been a starter. And I think he should start. I don't rate Martial. I think he starts. I think Rashford should start. And I think Ronaldo should be more. I think you should play Ronaldo as an impact sub. If it's not going well, bring him on, change the game when teams get tired. But Cavani's one of those players that can press from the front. I don't know. I really don't know. But I feel like if I was manager at Manchester United right now, I would be making some serious changes come the Spurs game.
I mean, you have to. You can't just go with the same again. It's clearly not working. You often see on the back of a terrible performance, or you've been battered, like managers will make a few changes. He has to make changes. I know, like everyone banters him that he's not a good manager. Let's be clear. He's taken them as far as he can, and he's not at the level required to then step up. So, he's going to be struggling a little bit. He's not got the coaching staff to help him out. So I would equally not be surprised if we saw literally the same team.
I don't think he's a manager. I don't think he's a manager at all. I don't know.
I don't know what he is, mate. He's just there. I mean, he's lucked into it. That CV never gets that CV that he's got. A couple of Norwegian leagues and relegating Cardiff, and that suddenly gets you possibly the biggest job in world football is quite ridiculous. But I mean, in terms of Ronaldo, obviously he clearly wasn't part of the plans in the summer to sign him, but it became evident that the club acted and stepped in when there was the rumours of him being very close to Manchester City. They just couldn't let that happen, so they bought him in. I don't think Ole, in fairness to him, planned for Ronaldo's arrival. Obviously, when Ronaldo comes, it's great. But I've always said, as a viewer as well, it's a better signing for the Premier League than it is for Manchester United. Whilst it gives you loads of goals and a bit of a feel-good factor and a top player, he is 36. He doesn't press from the front, and he very much does what he wants. And when you don't play him, that brings a lot of pressure on you. And when you do play him, you then get questions asked about the system. I mean, where do you stand on Ronaldo? He's obviously going to play tomorrow night, I would presume.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great performance, and no one did in that Liverpool game. He came up against Van Dijk, and like you said, mate, they just, I think what it is with Ronaldo is I'm not going to criticise Ole for signing Ronaldo. That's one thing I will back. I think the club signed him rather than the manager. Yeah, but I feel like once City were going in for him, I feel like they had to get him. And I'm not saying it's a bad signing. I just think that I think as a club at the moment, because they don't know what they're trying to do, it's not utilising Ronaldo to the best of what he can do. That's why I find it very strange that they don't play Sancho, because he's a type of player that will tack the fullback, get balls into the box, which is what he needs. And he needs high-press players like Rashford and Sancho just going to be running all day in front of him. So I don't know. I would expect him to start. But again, if I was manager, I'd probably say bench him. But then he did that against, I think it was Everton. And then everyone was kicking off saying he brought him on too late. So it's a bit of you can't really win.
Yeah. I mean, I think as a manager, you should always pick your best players, and Ronaldo is one of Man United's best players. So they've brought him in, and you've got to adapt your way of playing to suit him. He's only here for the short term, this season and probably next season, and then that'll probably be it. He'll be 37 going on 38. I think that'll be him done. So for the short term couple of seasons, you just need to play to his strengths, because you've brought him in to play. You've not brought him in to sit on the bench.
I mean, could he not play tomorrow on the left and Cavani up top?
Well, yeah, but this is another thing. Like, maybe try something different. Maybe have, like, I'm not saying Ronaldo's not a centre forward, but he's not a traditional centre forward. He's become a number 9 in the latter stage of his career, because he perhaps hasn't got the legs and the pace they had when he was younger to play out wide. But I think that's definitely something you could look at. But yeah, Ole has to make changes. Just a couple of questions, a couple of things that have come in. I think United would have to bring in a heavyweight European manager. Yeah, would there be many people? Yeah, there's been things about they've been realistically wanting to wait to the international break. Hence why this kind of 3 games to save the job, because it gives you more time to then replace the manager and bring someone else in. Obviously, would there be managers that want the job? Absolutely. It's hard to get managers to leave a job partway through a season. So I don't know if you could be looking at another interim situation before finding a permanent appointment in the summer. But then there's 2 top managers available in Antonio Conte and Zinedine Zidane, both of who would be more than capable of filling that position. I mean, I have to say, George, if Antonio Conte does end up coming in the next few weeks, I'd be slightly worried that United could suddenly be back in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a type of manager they need. They need someone who's just going to take charge of that dressing room and be like, look, I don't care what your name is. I'm the manager and I'm going to make bold changes. And he does that. He's not afraid to do that. The issue you have there is they've been down this road before with Jose. They're very similar personalities in that if he doesn't get what he wants from the board, he'll well, we saw it, why he left Inter Milan. I mean, he's a very, he needs what he wants. And if he doesn't get it, he does tend to blow up, which is not the Manchester United model, because they tend to like to keep out the back pages.
But I think again, though, that comes back to the fact that football evolves. Man United's model as a club is going to have to evolve. You're not going to get a situation where you get a manager for 25 years again, like I had with Alex Ferguson.
No, exactly.
That just doesn't happen. And I think, the Glazers quite like having Solskjaer in, because he's like, as I've said before, he's like a bit of a protection for him. He's just like a bit of a yes man. He toes the club line, all this nonsense about the United way or the United DNA. He's out of his depth, but I'm not sure if they're afraid to replace him or what. But yeah, this is a must-win game for Man United. If they don't win this game, even a draw, I think that basically makes the decision for them. In all honesty, but George, moving on to Tottenham, again, they're really struggling as well. Nuno, not had a great start, to be honest. They're not playing good football. Really struggling. The likes of Dele Alli seems to have lost all his footballing ability. Harry Kane, we said he doesn't want to be there. We all know that, and his performances on the pitch are echoing that. I mean, what can we expect from them?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about it in length last week. It's a product of a row of poor decisions for the last 4 or 5 years. Like you said, when they were at that critical moment, when they reached the Champions League final, they went for that title against Leicester City. They didn't invest in the squad. They then decided to change Pochettino, which again I thought was the right call. Brought in a winner. Okay, for whatever reason, Jose Mourinho didn't work out. But again, they didn't invest in the squad, made poor decisions, and now that's really what they're left with, in the sense that they've got players that have been there for the years of all three managers and haven't really got any better. If not, they've got worse. On top of the fact, he's a manager who's obviously been 4th, 5th, 6th option for them. So I don't really know what Spurs expect. And I don't know what Daniel Levy wants from Spurs now. I think they had their opportunity and they blew it. And now they're going to have to rebuild again. Yeah,
I think that the biggest mistake that Spurs made was not selling Harry Kane.
Yeah.
I think they had to take the money and just rebuild. There's no point keeping a player that's unhappy and clearly doesn't want to be there. And you can tell by performances on the pitch. I mean, even when he played in the cup against Burnley in the week, he was anonymous again. He just wasn't there. So this is just coming. Do you think with Alex Ferguson big on the board, United will ever move forward? I tweeted about this the other day.
Good point.
I think it's a problem, and I think the best thing Man United could do is remove Alex Ferguson from having any influence over major decisions, because his time at the club's done now. Yes, he'll always be have a director role, etc., like people do, but he shouldn't be involved in the management process whatsoever. I mean, he's had a couple of shockers, really, recommending David Moyes to succeed him, and then supposedly, if you believe the reports, saying that they should stick with Solskjaer. I don't know where the line is with that, because it's quite hard to tell someone of Sir Alex Ferguson's stature within the club. By the way, you need to kind of take a back seat from this decision making. But would you agree then that you think the best thing they could do is perhaps actually try, because it always seems like they're just basically living in the past.
Yeah, I think initially it was a good idea, because I think when they were changing, it was such a big change from having a manager for 25 plus years. It's quite nice to have someone just to steady the ship, who knows the ins and outs of the club, what they're trying to do. And I guess he sees a bit of himself in Solskjaer, in the sense that when he first started at United, it wasn't going well. There was a lot of pressure for him to deliver titles and all the rest of it. And he was quite close to losing his job. I think people forget that. But I think it's just gone so far now that you don't want that over your shoulder as a manager. And obviously, Ollie hasn't got the bollocks to kind of tell him, look, I want to do things my way. Yeah. Whereas I think if Conte came in, I think he would not. I think there would be a bit of a feud there. Yeah,
no, I would agree, man. I think, to be honest, I just think it's one of those things. It's like, I think Solskjaer is like the equivalent of just waiting on death row. You know it's coming it just depends when. You might get a little bit of a reprieve, but ultimately he will be sacked and he won't see this season out. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to wrap this little segment up then, George, Spurs, Man United, what are you going for? Spurs, United, or draw?
Spurs.
Go for Spurs. I'm going to sit on the fence and go with a draw in this one. Moving on to the lunchtime kickoff then to kick off the weekend's action. A tasty game at the King Power. I mean, two teams are actually banging form. Arsenal unbeaten in their last 8, and Leicester stringing some good wins together. Back-to-back wins now in the league against Brentford and Man United. This could be a good game.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I mean, it could. This is a tight one to call. I think you're right. I think this could be a very good game. Leicester in very, very good form, starting to pick it up now after a stumbling start, and this is going to be a difficult one to call, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, looking at from Leicester's perspective, they had a slow start to the season. A few poor results, but Brendan Rodgers is a very good coach. We're both big fans of his. Players now seem to be starting to bedding in, finding their form. The likes of Maddison seems to be playing well. Jamie Vardy still firing the goals in, and then Patson Daka, the summer signing, they seem to have unearthed someone who's going to be very good for them. But George, arguably their standout player has been Yuri Tielemans in midfield. How impressive have you been with him this season?
Yeah, he's crazy, isn't he? We spoke about it in length about him going to be difficult to hold on to in the summer, with Leicester tending to be a selling club. But as you pointed out, it doesn't. They've recruited so well. It doesn't seem to affect them as much because they invest so well from the sales that they do. But Tielemans is he's crazy. I mean, we saw it firsthand, that goal in the FA Cup, the FA Cup last season, and he's just gone from strength to strength. He's certainly one of the best in his position at the moment in European football.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's all the more impressive that Leicester have kind of been on this decent run of form without arguably one of their most influential players in Wilfred Ndidi in the middle of the park. So,
yeah.
I mean, it goes to show they've got great squad depth. How impressed have you been with Brendan Rodgers kind of this season? I mean, do you think he can get Leicester there or thereabouts again?
Yeah, I really I love Brendan Rodgers and I love Leicester City as a football club. It's one of those clubs that, for the first time when we lost the FA Cup, I was disappointed, but I was I was glad for Leicester City of anyone. They're just such a well-run club. They have faith in him. He's such a good manager. He's clearly a man manager as well. Like, players love to play for him. Very experienced. People forget how close he was to breaking that barrier with Liverpool and winning the title there. Did very well in Scotland. And yeah, I think Leicester will be there or thereabouts. I did say they would have a bit of a hangover after the FA Cup, but you'd almost expect that. But they're better than Manchester United at the moment. Everyone goes on about how they must make top 4, so why not?
Yeah, no, I agree. And George, from an Arsenal perspective, obviously a disastrous start of those 3 heavy defeats in the first 3 games. But since then, Mikel Arteta, in fairness to him, has kind of started to steady the ship and seems to be turning the corner. A convincing 3-1 win against Aston Villa last time out. How impressed have you been with the response from Arsenal from their poor start?
Not that.
No,
I don't buy it, to be honest. I think it's going over the cracks a little bit. I think there's still no real sense of what they're trying to do. Ultimately, I don't think the squad's good enough. So yes, they're going to get results along the way because they do play good football. They've always played good, expansive football. When they turn it on, they can turn it on. They beat us last season. I just think that they are a substandard team now, and I really, top 10 is an achievement now for Arsenal, which is it's shocking to say, but I just, again, we talk about Ollie not being good enough. I'm sorry, but I just think Arteta, he's on the same level as Frank, and if Frank's gonna get sacked from Chelsea, I don't see how Arteta's still got a job. Honestly, I know Frank had a lot better as squad and more investment, but Arsenal had investment this transfer.
Yeah, Arsenal spent the most money in the summer in the league. Yeah,
sorry, no, go on.
No, I think Arteta. Look, is he going to be the man that's going to lead Arsenal back to the top 4, the top 6? Probably not. But right now, is he the best option that they can get? He probably is. I don't think there's anyone else that's would want to come into that job that would necessarily do any better. But yeah, I mean, look, Arsenal just have to accept that they're where they are at the moment, and it's going to take them a number of years to get back there. But let's say unbeaten in their last 8. I mean, there's signs of putting a run of form together. They've definitely improved from the start of the season. You'd have to give them credit for that. But I personally feel this will be a game too far for their unbeaten run. I'm going with a home win for Leicester City in this one. What are you saying?
Yeah, I was going to go home win or draw. Yeah, I'll go home win just. I think it might be a step too far for Arsenal, but they both do play expansive football. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal do get a result, but I'm going to go home win.
Yeah, I think there could be a lot of goals in this one potentially. But yeah, so 2 home wins there. Obviously we've already previewed Newcastle against Chelsea earlier in the day. So guys, go and check that match preview out on the channel. But George, there was a bit of news that we didn't cover because we recorded it before Tuchel's presser. No Matija Kovacic tomorrow. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make for us in the middle of the park?
I think it does. I think it makes a huge difference because he's been probably our most outstanding player of the season so far. I mean, we posted it on our channel about how much of an impact he's been. Most assists, most chances created, they come from him. Seen him live a couple of times this season. We both have. He's been the most impressive for me. So that is a worry. It depends now. I mean, if Kante is fit and can play, it's a perfect swap. If not, then we're going to have to hope that Ruben does a job. You're
possibly looking at a Jorginho Ruben, or even another outing for Sao Niguez, maybe.
I hope not.
No, look, I think it's an issue, but the squad depth is definitely going to be tested. But that's why we've got the depth to deal with these situations. I don't think it should make a difference to the result necessarily. But as I said, make sure you check out our match preview video on the channel for a more in-depth analysis on that game. George, you earlier said you're going for a draw. Are you sticking by that?
Yeah, I'll stick by a draw, mate. I have gone back and forth, but I'm going to stick for a draw. We've got to have some draws in there, so I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the faith. I'm going with a Chelsea win. I think it's a game that we should be winning. Loftus-Cheek, if Loftus-Cheek is fit, then I'd say that he has to start for me. Whether he does or not, absolutely not. No Ross Barkley, more like Toss Barkley.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing Ross, to be fair. But
we were at the League Cup in the week. He was shit, mate.
Well, he did some nice things, but yeah,
he was, mate. He was a B-Tech Grealish with his socks rolled down. He was shocking.
B-Tech Grealish, that's great.
Honestly, mate, he was poor. I'm sorry. I'm not having that. But yeah, you've got a draw for George and a Chelsea win for me. Moving on to the other title contenders, George. Liverpool in fantastic form. Back-to-back 5-0 wins against Watford and Manchester United. Unbeaten in the league still, the only side. They take on Brighton at Anfield. Brighton have had a good start to the season, doing much better than people would have expected. But this is a Liverpool win all day long, isn't it?
I think Brighton will score. I think I think Brighton will score, but I think Liverpool have too much. I can't remember if Brighton actually got a result against Liverpool last season.
I think they won at Anfield 1-0.
I know it was different.
Very different circumstances. Yeah.
So I expect the role to continue. I don't need to talk about much about this one. I think Brighton will score, but I think Liverpool win.
Yeah. I think a Liverpool home win as well. I can't see anything other than that. They've been in really good form this season. Best player in the world, Mohamed Salah. Do you think he'll get on the score sheet again?
Yeah, I can't see it. I think he'll continue the run. Definitely, probably get a couple.
I mean, and George, do you think Liverpool are back to their title-winning season form now? I mean, I was quite critical of the lack of investment in the summer window, but so far it doesn't seem to be causing them any problems.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I do fear that the difficulty Chelsea have is, yes, we play a different way, and it doesn't matter how you get the results at the end of the day. You can play outstanding football. Chelsea definitely don't, but we play efficient football. The difficulty is everyone's so good that you almost, it was like when City and Liverpool went for the title the first time around. You almost, even if you lose like 2 games, you could be out of the title race. That's how good the other two are. So
very, very good.
Even losing that City match at home, I know you can expect that, but that could cost us the title. That's how good these two sides are.
Yeah, they are very good. But yeah, so two home wins there should be fairly comfortable for Liverpool. Moving on to Manchester City, they host Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace, who have earned a lot of plaudits this season. George playing some good football, picking up some good results along the way. A trip to the Etihad probably a step too far for them.
Yeah, again, I think they'll put on a good performance. I wouldn't be surprised if they just score as well, like Brighton. I think City aren't the greatest defensively, but again, I think just far too much going forward for City. So yeah, it's a home win for me again.
Yeah, I mean, I said like I think we both tipped Crystal Palace to struggle. How impressed have you been with the job that Patrick Vieira's done there so far?
Yeah, he's obviously had a huge impact, and I think sometimes it's hard to gauge how much, from transition from intelligent footballer to intelligent coach, but he has had a very good pedigree working, I think, in America, and he's worked.
Yeah, and he worked with Nice as well in France.
Yeah, so he has a bit of a pedigree, similar to Thierry Henry in that regard. So, yeah, obviously, again, he's had an impact, a bit of a breath of fresh air. Wants to do different things than Roy Hodgson, rather than just staying in the league. He actually wants to try and come up. And they've played some entertaining stuff. So yeah, fair play to them.
They have, and I think it's definitely helped that he's lowered the age of that squad, because under Hodgson, it's not the oldest squad in the league. So I think some of the young players coming in. Just on a quick one from a Chelsea perspective, how impressed have you been with Conor Gallagher's performances in midfield for Palace this season? I think he's done really, really well.
Yeah, he's been great, and it's always a positive, even if he doesn't, come back to Chelsea and play. I mean, it's just good to see.
It adds some money onto the transfer, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's all positive for us. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, and from a City perspective, they'll be hurting from their elimination in the week in the Carabao Cup, as Simon's put in the comments.
Yeah,
this should be straightforward for them. Probably. I mean, I'm going for a home win. Too much attacking quality, just too much quality all over the pitch. So, yeah. For me, home win. George, you sharing that?
Home win.
Okay, moving on to some of the less exciting fixtures now. Watford host Southampton at Vicarage Road. Ranieri with a great 5-2 win at Goodison Park last weekend. Saints obviously held to a 2-2 draw by Burnley. Still, I think that these teams have got one win apiece this season, if I'm not mistaken. How do you see this one going? I think it's just got draw written all over it. Two sides not really in the best of form. But then we saw Southampton in the week against us, and they weren't bad. I know it was a second string Chelsea, but it was also kind of a bit of a second string Southampton side. They weren't bad. I mean, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I've always praised Southampton for the way they play football. They are an entertaining team to watch. Just can't seem to get over the line with the results there. They're a bit of a draw specialist, aren't they? Watford on the back of a very impressive win, but it almost came out of nowhere. I mean, they were trailing 2-1 with 10
about
minutes
6 minutes to go, yeah.
So the thing is, Ranieri needs to start winning home games, and he'll see this one as he would have looked at this one before the Everton win as the one that he probably thought he was going to get the first 3 points.
100%. He would have out of his first 3 games, he would have had this one circled as the one that is they've got a big chance of winning. I don't think he would have expected anything from Liverpool or Everton, and anything else would have been a bonus. So
yeah. So on that basis, I'm gonna back Watford to go back to back.
You think it's gonna be a home win?
But it was a toss up between that and a draw. But
it's a hard one to call. Both teams not in amazing form. I think they probably will cancel each other out. I'm going to go for a draw. You going for a Watford win?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on then. We've got another one. Burnley without a win this season as well, I believe. Take on surprise package Brentford at Turf Moor. I think this is another one of those games that has potentially got draw written all over it as well. I mean, Brentford having started really well, kind of had back-to-back defeats against Chelsea and Leicester, but obviously progressed in the Carabao Cup in the week with a 2-1 win away at Stoke. Do you think Brentford have got it in them to pick up a win at Burnley? It's a tough place to go.
Yeah, I think they do have the capability. Yeah, you're right though, mate. You could probably just see it at 5 o'clock and be like, of course that was going to be a draw. Why didn't I go for a draw?
Yeah.
Probably quite low scoring. I think if anyone's going to win that game, it's going to be Brentford, just because of the way they push a bit more. But Turf Moor, very difficult place to go. Again, Oh, go on. I'm going to back Brentford. Go on, away win.
You're going to go for the away win.
Yeah, I'm a risk taker.
Thing is, I'm tempted to join you with that away win because Burnley are so poor. And if this was at Brentford, I'd be going for a Brentford win all day long. It's just something about Turf Moor. I know their form's not amazing there. I'm not going to pick a Burnley win. It's whether it's a toss-up between the draw and the away win. Tough. I think I'm going to join you, mate. I think it's going to be a away win. I think Brentford will halt their run of back-to-back defeats and pick up a win at Turf Moor. So I'm joining you in an away win there. Moving on, two teams that are really struggling, one more than the other. Basement boys Norwich City take on a Leeds United side really struggling for form after last season's great season. Is that Carrow Road, Norwich, Leeds? This is a must-win for both teams, really.
And that's why it makes it difficult to predict, even though I would say that Norwich are by far the worst team I've ever seen in the Premier League. But 100%. I mean, what I saw at Stamford Bridge honestly, I think we could have done a better job, mate. Honestly,
yeah.
But you're right. They're playing someone that's equally struggling, and they'll know the importance of this game. If they can't win this game, they've got absolutely no hope of staying up. So, tough one.
The thing is, Leeds have got good quality in that side, though. I don't really know why it's not happening for them. You know, they've got the likes of Calvin Phillips. I mean, Rafinha is a talented player. I mean, surely their form's got to turn at some point as well. I mean,
I think it's cycles again. I think with Bielsa, it's like, you know, they got up, they got promoted, then it's all the excitement with the Premier League. But then kind of when things don't go right and you've got the same manager and the same ideas, it's almost like sometimes it needs freshening up. I know that sounds harsh from Bielsa, but I don't know. I feel like the second season syndrome's really kicked in now. And
yeah,
it's difficult for them
I
to
mean, this is a tough one because I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds stupid because all three results are always possible in all football matches, but like generally though, like you've got an idea of what the result might be. I could easily see equal chance of all three results happening.
Yeah.
So that's the tough one. But yeah, this is one for me that, I mean, a Sunday 2:00 kickoff. It's got draw written all over it. I'm going with a draw. So that 2 draws.
Oh, I don't know if I should go for a draw or not.
Right, mate, we're moving on. So it's going to be, you've gone for a draw.
Yeah, right, fine. Yeah, draw then. Let's go.
You've gone for a draw. Mate, a tasty game, Super Sunday, 4:30 kickoff. Aston Villa hosting bang-in form West Ham. This is a real tough one to call.
Yeah, I'm going to go, straight away off the bat. I'm going to continue with the Hammers' run of form.
How impressed have you been with the Hammers?
Really impressed. They've surprised me because, again, similar to Leicester, I thought really high finish last season, even though they did tail off towards the end. Could have finished higher. But I thought that was pretty much the pinnacle. I didn't think they could go any better than what they got. I thought they overachieved last season. But I was wrong, mate. I was wrong. Obviously, what David Moyes is doing now, maybe that's what Sir Alex saw in him first time around. And let's not forget, he did do a great job at Everton as well.
He did, in fairness to him.
Like
they were a great result.
Yeah.
And a great result in the week, knocking Manchester City out of the cup as well. Really great performance there with a pretty much second string side. I've been really impressed with them as well. I think they'll be in and around the top 6 again. But on the flip side, George, Aston Villa, obviously Jack Grealish left, well documented. I thought they'd reinvested the money really well. They're just struggling to find their feet, aren't they? The signings haven't quite clicked yet. They know Danny Ings, Emi Buendia, Leon Bailey at the top end of the pitch, pretty much a completely new front line. I mean, what do you just think? Put this down to a slow start, and it will click for them, or do you think there's perhaps bigger problems potentially on the horizon?
I think it's always difficult when you lose someone that iconic for their club.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. I thought they did invest quite wisely with the personnel, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out. And those players haven't adapted yet, but I think they've got too much quality to go down. So I think
they won't go down, no chance.
No, this is going to be a season that's going to probably stagger, and they're going to have to acclimatise. And I think they will click eventually, but it is a slow start, and I would be backing West Ham to turn them over tomorrow.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's two away wins there. And then rounding out the weekend's action, the Monday night football, Wolves host Everton. Wolves starting to. This is a tough one to call as well. Wolves turning a bit of a corner after a poor start, picking up a few good results. Unlucky last time out not to beat Leeds. Just letting in an equaliser right at the end. And Everton, having started pretty well, I know they're still only a point or two off the top four, but back-to-back home defeats to West Ham and that embarrassment last time out of the hands of Watford, it's vital that Rafa Benitez picks up a result in this game.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Everton, I have to say. I think that freakish result against Watford is quite alarming, and that just goes to show, even if they seem in control, there's moments of madness there.
I mean, it's another one that you look at that on paper and you just think,
yeah, you
cannot watch it, and it's like that's got draw written all over it.
Yeah, and I think I'm tempted to go for the draw, because I think Rafa Benitez will probably say that it's really important that we tighten up after that embarrassment.
Yeah.
But I like Wolves at the minute, especially the frontline combination.
Yeah, so, I mean, how impressed? Firstly, how great is it to see Raul Jimenez back playing football again after that horrific head injury? Because he's the top player. I have to say, I think I'm surprised that he's not been snapped up by, no disrespect, a bigger club than Wolves.
Yeah, he's class, but he is. I mean, he's a classic centre forward, but he's got way more about him, and he is quite old now. But no, it's great. It's great to see him back.
I mean, and then in Hwang, the Korean forward, he seems to be finding the back of the net. They seem to be linking up quite nicely, and then they've got some talent in that squad. Ruben Neves in the middle of the park, Adama Traore, Podence, Pedro Neto. They've got some good players. Wolves, I think they should be doing probably a bit better than they are. But yeah, I mean, for me, mate, I'm going for a draw in this one.
I'm going to go Wolves.
I'm going to go home win. Wolves just
1-0. Yeah,
fair. And just one last thing to wrap up. There's a question a bit off topic. How old do we all feel now? All these players we watched when we were younger are now managers. Yeah, it is mad, to be fair. When you're watching the games, you're seeing the likes of Arteta in a dugout. I mean, not so much Solskjaer, because that was when he was playing. It was obviously quite a lot younger, but the likes of Arteta, Vieira, Lampard. You see JT was doing his assistant stuff, and you think, fuck, you just feel so old.
Yeah, it's madness. And I have to say, I did lose a bit when Frank, JT, and all the rest of it, and some big Premier League legends did retire. I did lose a bit of attachment with the Premier League, just because you lose all those iconic players like Beckham and everything else, and you just grown up with that. But slowly but surely, it all swings round and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly, and new legends will come through, etc. But yeah, it is odd seeing the players you watched growing up and kind of idolised.
What's worse, mate, is when you speak to kids and you're like, literally when I go to work and I speak to them and I say, Frank Lampard, they don't even know who that is.
Mate, it's mad. Like the next generation of people coming through, I haven't really you'll have to explain. In a few years' time, you have to explain who Ronaldo and Messi are. That is mad. But yeah, guys, that pretty much concludes the weekend preview show. Hopefully, be a great action-packed weekend of Premier League football. Hopefully, Chelsea can maintain their advantage at the top of the table. As always, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. You can obviously watch this stream back. Thanks for those of you that sent your questions in and joined in for the live stream, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.